Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Coletti. Ed Nunez on assignment this week. He'll be back next week. He'll be hosting the show while I'm on assignment. So it kind of works both ways here on the Sports Desk. Anyway, we have a couple of special guests here today. We're going to talk about a lot of sports. And my first special guest, just saw him yesterday. Jim Villanucci, the host of the Jim Villanucci Show. And Jim, like Steve Davis said, welcome back to town.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's good to be back.
Well, I know your story. You and I talk all the time about the story. I'm not going to get into the entire story, but what brought you back? What made you want to come back? Because I think that's the interesting part.
Well, when Joe told me that Bob Brown and his wife had decided to retire and that the job was available, he asked me if I was interested, and I said, yeah. So that's what brought me back.
But you always had a thought that you wanted to be here in the first place.
Well, I never wanted to leave here in the first place. That's the issue. But yeah, I was sort of getting disillusioned with political talk radio. I want to say about 2011-ish. I started really not enjoying it anymore. And Joe and I had talked about doing something 5 or 6 years ago. And it wasn't the afternoon show at the time, but I think it was an earlier time slot. We talked about a bunch of different things, but I wanted to make the move from political talk radio to ESPN 6 years ago, but I had a non-compete contract, and they enforced it, so that's what caused me to have to leave town. So I went to Portland for a little over a year, Portland, Oregon, and I went to Vegas for a little over a year, and I took a couple years off and played poker, cashed in a couple World Series events. And then I was starting to get the itch to get back to talk radio. So it all worked out. I mean, I've been very fortunate.
What is the biggest philosophy for you in a show? Because I know you work your tail off to prepare.
I do.
What do you look into for each show? Kind of go from the beginning when you pull your first piece of paper out and to the end. What are you looking for to achieve that day?
I mean, I think the number one thing that people lose sight of is you have to be entertaining. And when I worked for Jay Leno, he always said, no funny, no money. He said, prepare show, do show, cash check, no funny, no money, keep it simple. And I always have. And, you know, Jay used to get in at 9 in the morning and work on his monologue. He would work from 9 to 5 just for that monologue, along with 12 other writers and 20 part-time writers like myself. And so I learned that you got to work hard and you got to be entertaining and you got to be authentic and tell the truth. I mean, it's basic stuff, really, but it's basic stuff that not a lot of people get in our business. So, I don't know. I just have always tried to just be authentic.
When you took the job, obviously, you moved over to sports.
Right.
And I know you're a sports buff.
Yeah. I think most men are. I'm not unusual. I mean, I watched my first Super Bowl in 1972.
Right.
And I've watched every one since. Baseball is my favorite sport. I still think it's the best game. I love college basketball. I love pro football. But I never pretended to be a sports expert, and I wasn't hired because I was a sports expert. But when I first started doing political talk radio, I wasn't a political expert. I didn't know who 435 members of Congress were, 100 senators, or 50 governors.
Right.
But you learn, you know, and I think about, this is my 4th month now, I think I at least sound credible. I mean,
I think so,
I faked my way through the rough patch.
Exactly.
But it's not like, you know, people are like, it's so funny, like, people at my old station.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because you and I joke about it all the time.
They always like, oh, Jim can't possibly do sports. You know, going from stand-up comedy to talk radio to sports talk radio, I mean, it's not like I went from political talk radio to riding a unicycle. I mean, it's pretty much the same gig. It's just different people and different names and different situations. But basically, you're preparing your show and telling a story. That's all it is. You know, and nobody is ever going to believe that I'm John Madden. And I'm not. But that's not, you know. Imus was on the #1 sports station in New York for years. He was not a sports expert. But he was an entertaining host, and he surrounded himself with great people. which is what I try to do with people such as yourself.
You know, one of the things that Steve Davis asked you, and it's interesting, you followed up about Bob Brown.
Right.
So we know a couple of things about following up kind of legends in their field.
Yeah, I followed Glenn Beck in Portland.
Well, yeah, I knew that too.
That was
but
rough sledding.
That's a legend.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
I will say the first week was horrible because everybody doesn't like the new guy because, you know, look, when you're attached to a guy for 10 years, your natural inclination, human emotion, is not to like the new guy. And I
Right.
get it, and I don't take it personal.
Right. Well, that's what I learned with following up a guy with 41 years experience.
Yeah, you had it worse than the rest of us. Yeah, so you know what it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
But after a couple weeks, they're like, new guy seems okay. We'll give him a chance, you know. So
What is the favorite part for you of what you do?
I think when I meet people who I did a favor for 10 years ago that I forgot about, come up to me and go, you know, 10 years ago when I was in the military, you flew me home for Christmas so I could be with my family. And I just wanted to say thank you. That's the best part. You know, I helped get an innocent Marine out of prison who I had believed was wrongly imprisoned, and he was. And I got the judge to overturn it. I mean, I never got credit for it, but we all know. And his dad came to visit me and said, you know, he hugged me and we cried. I mean, that's the good parts.
Yeah. That another thing that I've noticed that I love seeing is when we're out on location, people coming up and saying, hey, welcome back.
Right.
You'll get an audience, and you'll recognize people who were former listeners of you at the other place.
Well, I was there a long time.
Yeah.
And, you know,
but it's cool that they come out of the woodwork to come say hi and come hang out.
I think I made an emotional connection with people because I was authentic. You know, the funniest thing, the easiest thing for me to be, and the rarest thing in our business is authenticity. And I'm just authentic because it's easier. I mean,
Right.
if you don't have two personalities, you don't have to worry, who am I today? Am I the radio guy or the off-the-air guy? Anybody that knows me knows it's exactly, you know this, because we spend a lot of time together. It's exactly the same guy. You know?
Right. You might actually tone it down on the
I do.
off the air.
Off the air Jim is actually a tiny bit funnier than on the air Jim. Well, because you know, if you're going to have an entertaining car ride with somebody, I'm probably your guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of fun just cracking up, riding around from gigs. You know, you give me a ride after our gigs, and we just go out to eat and we laugh. And that's also the fun part of the job, is just having fun times with your coworkers.
One thing that I want to ask you this, because a lot of people in Albuquerque don't know this. You know, you and I have been in major markets. So I know a lot of hosts, and a lot of hosts in sports don't go to games. Or if they do go to games, they rarely go to games. You go to all of the men's and women's home games. Yes, you do.
First of all, other hosts, if you consider going to a basketball game work, then you're in the wrong line of business. Because we have the best seats, people pamper us, and when I go and sit at the media desk and I see 6 empty seats from the competing radio stations,
right?
What? If your job isn't to go to the game and then talk about the game, then what is your job? And meeting the players and developing personal relationships with the players and the coaches is fun.
Right.
You know,
I know it.
and I've never considered it work. I mean, even when I go in, you know, I get in 9, 10 in the morning, I prepare my show. People go, you work hard? I go, really? I'm drinking coffee and reading a newspaper, watching ESPN on TV. I go, if anybody considers that work, then they got to really work. My grandfather was a coal miner, and he died of lung disease. That's work.
Right.
This is not work.
Right.
Sitting with you this morning is not work.
Yeah. Well, I'd be going. Maybe it is. I can make it work. No, just kidding. But
you're no walk on the beach.
Right. No, you know that. Well, see, I would be going to the games too, but for different reasons. I
understand.
And, that's because I don't have a credential. If I was credentialed, I'd be there all the time because it relates to my work.
I understand. Yeah, and you know, that's that's the petty part of the business that we've all seen too. That
can be unfortunate sometimes. But
It is what it is. Like
Yeah,
you say, you take
sure.
it for what it's worth.
yeah, so
That's what it is. But in closing, Jim, where do you want your show to be a year from now?
well, I mean, the people in Bristol are very happy with me. I'm kind of on their radar screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, my dream would be to get a weekend show on the network. I think that would be fun. I never wanted to be like a full-time network guy. I just think that would be too much. I don't want to say too much pressure, but at this point in my career, I just want to do the best local show I can do, and maybe have like a tiny bit of a national presence, maybe on a weekend basis. That would be my dream scenario. So I've been kind of working towards that. So we'll see. I mean, stranger things have happened.
Well, Jim, want to thank you. It took being on the Steve Davis show for you to be here. It was convenient, so you're already here, but we've been talking about having you on since you started back. So, and it's great working with you, by the way.
And we'll be together tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Friday, yes,
and
sir.
Wednesday, and 2 days a week, hopefully for the next 10 years, my friend.
Yep, sounds good.
All right.
Jim Villanucci from the Jim Villanucci Show on ESPN Radio 101.7 The Team. Our guest, Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican, will come out of the break. We'll take a break here on the Sports Desk, but first, the top 10 plays of the week from Dreamstyle.
By Deja Sandoval. Ingram, little crossover, step back, bang! It's stolen away by Garcia, up and underneath for the... roll. Valencia on the baseline, look at this! And the two-handed... Here's the steal. And look out. It's showtime. Patterson! Put it down!
Ramos, they pick up Ramos. He gets right past Smith. Steps into a three. Ramos hits! And a quick timeout from Adrian Ortega. Not a lot of people do that, but I'm kind of with you on that. Okay, the lead's back to 3, 2.9. They get it into Ramos quickly.
Better get
Ramos
on him.
Gonna get one up from half court. It'll count. If it goes, Brian, it went.
And here's Valencia. He's going to go strong. Put it down on the one hand.
Absolutely rejected.
Look
Gaxiel
out,
on the
look
spin.
out.
Here comes Jalen on the hammer job in transition.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that could happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
The Sports Desk is proudly presented by Car Crafters. It's like it never happened.
as we had Jim Villanucci from ESPN Radio 1017, the team, the Jim Villanucci Show, who I work with on location. And Jim, an outstanding host back in the network, if you will, of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we bring in our next guest. He's from the Santa Fe New Mexican. Nicknamed the least favorite friend by ESPN Radio 1017, the team, Will Weber.
I wish I had my own show. That'd be nice. There's not a newspaper guy out there.
Well, I hear through the grapevine you sound like Bob Costas.
If I sound like Bob Costas, my wife probably would disagree with that.
I thought you sound like Bob Jones, but you know.
There's not a newspaper guy out there who just wants his own show so he can spout, because you feel hemmed in by the writing, and there's so much left out there.
Okay, I got to ask you, having worked in newspaper, now I was in between broadcasting jobs when I went to LA and did newspaper, two different papers. Both papers, I was able to do broadcasting, radio and TV, and hosting a show on the side. Why don't you do that? I know you've
That's
done
a good
PA,
question. Why don't you?
but how come you're not out there doing media stuff?
Why aren't you helping me do that?
Because I don't want you to take my job. That's why. Honest answer, man.
I could sit behind lights like that. I would love to do something like that. Because,
You'd be good at it.
Well, let's face it. Newspapers are dying, and my kids all go to school, and in fact, my daughter, who's a high school senior, she had to write a report this week using a newspaper, and I think kids are shocked that they actually print news on paper and deliver it to your house. I'm a dinosaur. I'm a walking dinosaur. But
okay,
it's fun.
So here's the thing then, because my second newspaper, which is the LA Daily News Group, I worked with the San Gabriel Valley Tribune, started there as an editor-writer, wrote a feature on Corey Lytle's funeral, and that catapulted me into being an editor and a prep sports editor and a feature writer at the Pasadena Star-News. I bring that up because at the Pasadena Star-News, we had a video production where we actually did video news online, and we also did online stories, and one of my jobs also was to post all of our sports stories on the website before I was able to go home. Why don't the newspaper business people just make it full-time writing? Because I don't like the thought of newspapers being dead, because they shouldn't be dead. They're still local news.
Oh yeah.
Make it into online. You know, an online only, or even have the paper, but make the stories online. People go there and they still read local, because if you take away the local stuff, then you just have marauders out there, you know, doing website stuff, and you know, you don't know if it's true or false.
Well, that's the problem with the
because I worked with newspapers that were very stringent. If you did something, you know, couldn't editorialize. Otherwise, you're in the managing editor's office.
Well,
there were so many rules. You had to go AP style. You had to do this. You had to do that. They were strict in LA on what you could do and what you couldn't do, even in columns. You know, I had many meetings with the managing editor. Well, I don't know if you should put this in there. We might have to take it out.
Well, if you can figure out a way to make money online, then you
isn't
might
that
be
what
the
people are saying? That's the next wave. Well, someone's got to be able to make money.
That's the problem. I think is online you lose a lot of your profit. I mean, so much of ad revenue for a newspaper comes through the sale of advertising that comes out in print.
I mean, Proview Network started online.
Yeah,
and look where it is now.
I know, and that's the future. I think people are getting away from print, but it's becoming a lost art. Is the ability to write a story and tell a story, kind of go behind the scenes, and I think.
Well, how is it a lost art if you're online and you don't have an inch count? You can tell the story, and you can tell it vividly if you don't have an inch count.
People don't want these long, giant stories. They still want
But I'm just saying, don't leave out facts that you can't get in because you're only writing in the newspaper world 10 inches of a story where you have to leave out stuff.
Yeah, and how many...
I've never understood why people don't take advantage of that, because you know, someone had an idea for the internet and someone made money off the internet.
And the internet is unlimited space. That is true. But the marriage between print, the actual print side of it, and the online side of it, no one's really figured it out yet. And the person that does is going to save the newspaper business for whatever it's worth. But right now, it's a struggling thing, and I'm happy to still have a job, and I'm happy to still have a nice parking spot at the pit for Lobo games and do things like that. It keeps a roof over my head. It got my wife's interest. She's a huge sports fan, so It's a fun business to be in, although it does make
No,
me,
that's the thing. Being a writer was fun.
Yeah,
it was very fun.
It still is very fun.
Except for, I've had this conversation with James Yotis.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had, and I'm sure you've had millions of them, because I think you and I have talked about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had the conversations where parents come up, how come you didn't choose my kid as all metro and all this and all that and all area and whatever? You know, we had all area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what it was called, or all league. They weren't districts; they were leagues. You know, how come my kid wasn't picked? And you know, I covered almost 40 schools, and I had to pick 10 people for an all area team.
But there's two things to that. One, at least people are reading the paper. They're reading your stuff. So it's
But I mean, people actually coming to you at games.
Yeah.
I had that all the time.
It happens all the time. Yeah.
And then emails and phone messages galore.
Well,
you know?
and second, it's a subjective thing, so it sparks debate, and that's kind of the essence of what we're trying to do right there. So yeah, it's good.
Speaking of sparking debate, let's talk about the Lobos.
Okay.
That sparks a lot of debate. I mean, you're multifaceted. You've covered all the problems, all the Regents meetings. We had you on after the Regents meetings during the summer. Very quickly, because I wasn't planning on getting too much into this, do you think they'll bring back soccer?
No.
You don't?
Soccer's
okay.
done.
A lot of people don't, but there seems to be a lot of hope out there.
No, the bill that's on the table right now for the House of Representatives, they could pass it. They could throw $2 million at UNM and say, save soccer. But if you save soccer, you're going to have to save a female sport, which is beach volleyball.
Right.
So, all right, let's take that $2 million. Most of it's going to go to build the facility on campus for beach volleyball. That's most of your $2 million, and now you're stuck with resurrecting a soccer program that has lost the majority of its kids.
Right.
And so there's people at UNM that say just to get them back to the table to negotiate bringing these sports back is going to cost at least $4.5 million.
Well, they say that. See, that's the thing. They say that, but they also said having all the sports, they're saving $1.9 million. So where's that number come? They're not good at numbers over there,
right?
And they don't show where they get the numbers
they're
from.
They're big money football games too. They've already spent half of what they got from the Texas A&M and LSU contracts, which games are still 3 years out
already.
Yeah, and so the Notre Dame contract, they're getting $1.1 million from Notre Dame, but Notre Dame doesn't have to pay them until after the game has been played. So there's a lot of moving parts. Right now, things are okay at UNM. It's not great, but no, soccer's dead. Skiing is soon to be dead, and beach volleyball is a thing of the past.
And what about, do you think they will drop another sport? And if they do, the next one would be baseball. And if they drop baseball, how do they do that? Because that's a Mountain West sport.
Right. In baseball, they poured a lot of money into the facility. Look, they turfed it. They put in lights. They put in a new clubhouse. That $1.1 million donation to build the Hubbard Center, that's if you just threw all that stuff out, it's going to make
But did they do it, or did Coach Birmingham do it?
Either or.
Private funds
at this point, I think
from the coach. I'm just looking at devil's advocate. Maybe they, the school didn't want that.
Right. It didn't help that UNM had UNM had its worst season in Birmingham's tenure last year, but we all know that it came down to two sports. It was either soccer or baseball, and the thing
because of the Mountain West, there was no way they were going to drop baseball and the facilities.
Right? Yeah. You cut soccer, you can still use the facility for women's sports. Plus, the New Mexico United, the professional soccer team, they're taking over whatever space UNM's men's team had. So they're still getting use out of it. But if you cut baseball, all of a sudden you have a giant hole in the ground collecting dust.
Right. Let's talk about the football team. I mean, not wins and losses.
We need a whole nother show to talk about that.
Well, I know, and then we'll have you on for a whole nother show, but I just wanted to quickly delve into it. I went to a school to drop football. I worked for two others that dropped football. Those schools are thriving without football because they wanted to keep football, but football lost them a ton of money, and it lost them less than what UNM is losing.
Yeah.
So what's the end game with Lobo football? Because no one's going to the games. It doesn't seem like it's a football town. It's driven me nuts since I came to town because I thought it was a football town. And then seeing stadiums empty, what's it going to take? Because I think it's beyond just the attendance. I mean, there's so much apathy. And to me, I just don't think there's an interest locally in football to begin with. So where do you get the income to keep a football team when it gets more and more expensive, sans playing 4 money games in all your non-conference?
Well, winning helps, but
Does it really? Because
Yes,
their
it
attendance
does.
went down to an
It
all-time low after they were 9-4.
Well,
an
look at it this way.
all-time low before Mike Loxley was after the 9-4 season.
Right, but this team back in the late '80s, when Shepard was here, that was as bad as it got. I mean, you're talking 10 or 12,000 fans in a game. Do you seriously have your phone on in a live broadcast?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
I don't know.
We can't bleep that out, can we?
We
actually,
can't.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, but
it's a prop.
Attendance was as bad as it got during the
Way to bag
Shepard
me
years.
on that, by
right?
the way.
Exactly.
If anyone's going to do it, Will Weber can bag
I had
me.
to mute my phone when I walked in. I know my wife sitting right over here. She had to mute her phone.
Yeah,
so,
well,
but,
Will Weber will bag.
When football, get back on track here. When football, the attendance was so bad in the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, and then you bring in a coach, Franchione, who famously said it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Right.
And eventually, slowly, they got some momentum. They brought in some guys who could go into the NFL. Crowd started coming back. The team was competitive. And there was that 3-year stretch where they're averaging 36, 37, 38,000.
Right.
But the difference between then and now is the influence of the major conferences has made the mid-majors like UNM, the other 5 conferences. There's no shot at them at competing at that national level.
Right.
You just can't.
Right.
And I think people understand that this team, as good as it will ever get, might win 8 or 9 games, might go to the Mexico Bowl, might go to the Copper Bowl, or whichever one of these other bowls exists. That's as good as it's ever going to get. You're never going to be Alabama. You're never going to be LSU.
Right.
And so why should you spend $30, $40 on a ticket,
Right.
fight parking, deal with traffic, go to concessions where half the windows are shut? Why would you want to do that? I certainly want to do that.
Well, that's why it seems to me that it makes more sense, and nobody in town wants to do it. But I think for success of the team, winning more than 8 games and actually having a chance at a national championship, drop down.
Yeah,
but nobody wants to do that.
But if you do that, then it has a ripple effect on everything else. So if you're gonna drop down, you might as well just eliminate football altogether, which violates the protocol for a Mountain West school.
Right.
But there's schools
I
out
got
there.
news for you. Within a year, the Mountain West ain't going to be all that because they're losing their TV deal, and what I've heard, they're going to get $250,000 like
Whereas
what is it? Not the American, the other one.
The WAC. Well,
Conference USA already dropped down from like more than what the Mountain West was getting to $250,000 this year. And guess what? The conference contract ends next year.
Of all the coaches, no more 9 o'clock football games on a Saturday night, which drives the media.
But it would
nuts.
break the hearts of 1.5 million to a school as opposed to 250,000.
That is true. And therein lies the bigger problem. The influence of the big schools and the Power Five are taking all the money. It's the nature of college athletics, and frankly, I don't see it getting much better for UNM in the near future.
And the problem is we're seeing it getting worse and worse quicker because it was kind of a slow process. Now all of a sudden it's a snap of a finger.
Right.
And you're seeing things just all of a sudden happen that you were fearing 7 years ago.
Yeah, and basketball too. I mean, you're averaging 10, 11,000 fans per game, which is a good crowd. Whereas just a few years ago, a bad crowd was 14,000.
Right.
So it does have an effect on everything across the board. So, yeah.
He's Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican. We will take a break, come back with more on the Sports Desk.
High school sports are back. The 2018-19 season kicks off, and you could watch every Proview Network broadcast live on the NFHS network. Every moment, from every game, from every sport, including all NMAA state championships. Get your highly discounted monthly pass now. Go to ProviewNetworks.com and sign up. Watch New Mexico's best.
Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up!
Shut up!
Ah!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Marty Size or Michelle Rudolph in Albuquerque today.
Talk to State Farm agent Greg Shamus today.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at Proview Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
And we are back here on the Sports Desk. Scott Galletti, our thanks to Jim Villanucci joining us here in segment number 1 from ESPN Radio 1017, the team, the Jim Villanucci Show. And I'm with Will Weber right now from the Santa Fe New Mexican. And Will, we got to have you on one of these days on the Team High School Show.
You know, I got to say something. Like, there actually is a locker room behind us, isn't there? That's kind of cool. See, in the studio, there's a big green wall, but it looks. I like the graphics. As a newspaper guy, I'm amazed by tiny things like that.
Well, these graphics have been here forever, so we're looking
amazing.
for a new scene like everyone else has. But hey, we work with what we got.
Yeah.
Well, now back to the Lobos. We'll talk Lobo. Let's talk Lobo women first. The Lobo women have been outstanding. They had a game last week, and they took on Fresno State, and look at that. 82-73 was the final score. How about 18-2 and 8-1, Will?
Right. That's, you know, they're a team that's, I think the Mountain West is a one bid league for the NCAA tournament, and right now it's really between them and Boise State. And they only play each other once in the regular season. It's that second to last game of the regular season. But UNM is one of these teams that can easily win 28 to 30 games before it's all said and done. But the problem is they're probably going to get a 10 or 11 seed in the NCAA tournament, and they're going to get shoehorned against a big Power 5 school right off that first round. So we'll see. We'll see what they're made of in that first round. But right now, at 18-2 and 8-1 with a recruiting class that's as good as Mike Bradbury says it is, there's a lot of reasons to feel good about this team. I mean, Jason Nunn is playing out of her mind right now, and look at the stats from the last game. Nike McClure had 14 points. She was 7 for 7 shooting in that game, and Nike is not an offensive player, but it shows you that when you have balanced guard play with bigs inside that can score, Jason Nunn and Nike McClure can go off the way they did.
You want to know a name that's not even on there? One that is.
My name's
Antonia
not on there.
Anderson, 11.7 rebounds, 1 assist, and 3 steals.
Wow.
But how about Asia Robertson?
Yeah.
Her name's not even on there.
Right.
And they win this big game.
Yeah, funny thing about Asia, I sat down with her and Carlton Bragg, but they both played at Kansas at the same time together, and Asia got here first, and so they knew each other. They kind of helped recruit that process along to get Carlton here, but Asia is the quintessential playmaker. She does make some mistakes. She turns the ball over a little bit, but she's so fast and sees the court well. She's just a perfect point guard who can happen to score. So yeah, she's fun. She's great interview too. I don't know if you ever talked to her, but she's real funny.
Funny, yeah.
Hold the bleep button, but you can do it. Yeah.
That's funny. One of the things that I need to ask you, as someone who's familiar with both teams, and look at the shooting. 32 of 64.
Yeah.
And the main difference, and you and I have had this conversation about the Lobo men shooting way too many threes, only 16 threes and 6 makes.
Yeah.
So they pound the ball inside. They utilize their speed. They run up and down the court, and it's a much different style. They only got to the line 13 times, but it seems like every box score that I see from Coach Bradbury's team, a different story is told.
Yeah, you have to marvel at what he's done in 3 years. His first year, he didn't have any guards. Of course, he had to rebuild the team at the last second.
Right.
It was this huge plotting offensive team. Last year was guards. They ran the heck out of it. They shot a million threes. This year, they've actually got balance, and next year's team will even be deeper than what they are right now because they go 7, maybe 8 kids deep.
Right.
Next year's team will be even better, deeper, more experienced coming in. I mean, this is kind of the golden age of basketball. It's going to rival anything that Don Flanagan did in his extended time, except that this team, with the amount of talent that he's bringing in, could actually play at a sub-national level. This team could get into the postseason, make a little bit of noise.
And he's also getting the kids to buy in.
Yeah.
That's another difference. I mean, to an extent, you see the kids buying into Paul Weir, but to an extent, you see them kind of fraying into individual.
Yeah.
On this team, it's a team, and they play like a team.
You know, and men and women are just different. That's just the nature of it. Women seem to adapt.
It's more of a pure game.
Right, and they adapt themselves to that team culture where men, if you come in and you don't play all 14 guys 20 minutes a game, some of them are going to want to leave.
Right.
And so there's bad chemistry. That's exactly what's taking place with the UNM men's team. And frankly, I think after seeing this team struggle the way they have, it's time to say that the UNM men's basketball team is just not that good. They've got a lot of talent, but just lately, Paul Weir's been saying the talent level on last year's team was better, which I'm not buying at all.
Right.
This team has far more talent with bigger recruits, but
and it was billed as far more talented. We had you on Bob Brown's show last year, about a year ago now, and we were talking about this year's team, and ton more talent coming in.
Yeah, and everyone talks
now all
about,
of a sudden that switched.
Right, and everyone talks about, well, if Jaquan Lyle hadn't gotten hurt, how much better this team would be. One player is not going to make this year's basketball team that much better. Yeah, it helped.
It might make them more cohesive.
Could,
because then you got the guy, if he's as good as advertised, bringing the ball up the court, maybe making more points. But at the same time, it's a crapshoot.
Right.
And you know that.
Yeah. I think, honestly, this team expected a lot out of its point guard situation with McGee. McGee just didn't turn into that point guard that they thought he would be. And Drew Drennan, he's just a freshman. He's a kid. He's playing like a freshman. But without a point guard and the inside influence that that team has, they're not good right now.
Let's take real quickly, Will, let's take a look at the UNM at Fresno State game on the men's side. And that was 82-70, the final score. Fresno State improving to 16-5, 7-2. How about New Mexico falling to 9-12 and 3-6? They had, good balance scoring-wise. Mathis once again leading the way. Carlton Bragg, 7 points but 15 boards, so he continues to impress. But the shooting again, the problem.
Yeah.
Although, maybe not as big of a problem 2-point-wise, but look at those threes. What have I told you in the past? If they shoot over 30 threes, that's way too many. And they were 8 of 37, 21.6%. You got 22 of 69 field goals and 18 of 25 free throws. So they get to the line. Some days they'll shoot 85 to 90%. Some days they'll shoot 50 to 75%. So they're inconsistent. I think that's another thing that we need to talk about.
Well, the one stat you need to look at here where it says New Mexico 8 for 37 for 3-point, that's horrible. That's a train wreck. But take out the fact that Anthony Mathis was 6 for 13. So that means the rest of the team was 2 for 24 shooting 3-pointers that game. And look, I think we all understand that Vance Jackson might actually be the most talented player, physically talented player in that team. He shot a lot of threes that game because he is a 3-point shooter. He's a 6'9" 3-point shooter. But you don't necessarily need to keep doing that. If the ball's not going in, drive to the basket. He looked like a different player in the second half when he was driving, but at that point the game had gotten away from him, and it's almost like this team is too slow to react. They see games slipping away. They see momentum shifting, and they wait too long to do anything about it. And then you've got some of these guys in prolonged shooting slumps. Watch can't throw it in the ocean lately. And I know Vladimir Pinchuk is not an offensive threat, but he hasn't actually scored a basket in 6 straight games. So this team's got so many deficiencies, and it all starts at the point. But aside from that, you're shifting defenses constantly. The offense has no rhythm. You got 1 month to go in the season. There's some winnable games. They play San Jose State twice. You still have Wyoming. This team could conceivably get hot, but this is a program that's only 3 games over 500 the last 5 years. So, track record says, this is it. This is as good as it gets.
Before we go to break, one other stat that needs to be mentioned: 51-38, the rebounding disparity. How about Nate Grimes? Half of the Lobo total with 19. One guy with 19 rebounds. The Lobos had 38, so that's 50%.
Box that guy out. See, get his uniform number and box him out. You should try doing that. Because
easy for us to say.
Hey, everyone, see what Grimes is number 32. Yeah, go box him out. Try that.
We'll take a quick break. Come back with more here on the Sports Desk.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
This is Coach Borrego of the Charlotte Hornets. Hello to all you parents out there in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I want to congratulate 38 years for the AYBL. You guys are doing a great job. You've shaped a lot of lives, young men and women, and you'll continue to do that. Parents, get involved, sign your kid up. It's a great program. It helped shape who I am today, helped shape me as a basketball player, as a coach. So get out there, sign them up. Have a great season. Good luck to everybody.
The Barley Room, proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you.
And we are back here on the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Galletti, along with Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Thanks to Jim Villanucci for joining us. We have Josh Luna on our director chair here today. Great job by Josh for keeping us going. And we're going to keep him busy right now with some more graphics as we're going to talk about tonight's Lobo game as the Lobos taking on San Diego State at the Pit. And one of the things that I want to bring up about this, the Albuquerque Journal did a story, and I was part of those games when I was still at UNM, outside of the last two. 5 consecutive sellouts ended in 2015, and it's gone from 14,544 to 13,958 to 11,418 last year. Not the excitement level that it once was, the Lobos in San Diego State.
Well, and I think, honestly, they're starting to outprice their fans. People are just getting sick and tired of watching a 500 team. This team has got so many inconsistencies. And then all the other ancillary stuff, the budget cuts and all the concerns with football and what have you. But look, it's not cheap to go to a basketball game.
Right.
The tickets are $30 or $40, plus you got to pay the fees online. You got to pay for parking, and then the concessions. I mean, in some ways, UNM would be wise just
got to be a Lobo Club member to buy season tickets.
Right.
So.
We all talk
Which
about
a lot of schools do, but I mean, in a market like this, you are pricing out people.
Right, and look, the Isotopes, we can talk about the Isotopes, how they do their ticket pricing. It's cheap to get into an Isotopes game. They hit you at the concessions because they own the concessions. Right. That's where they can get you. So I'm not sure what UNM's arrangement is with their concessions, but it is not cheap to go to a Lobo basketball game. Trust me, my wife and I have taken kids to the game. It's an expense, and why would you want to go if the team is hovering around 500? It's frustrating because the expectations that the team is going to be better, it's going to be more entertaining, and it turns out not to be. Why would you want to spend your money?
Having said that, I think this is going to be a good game.
Okay.
I think so, at least.
Yeah, San Diego State.
You don't sound sold on it. But
well, problem is with the Mountain West this year, there's so many games decided by double figures. I think you can easily have a game that.
Isn't that weird, though?
It is weird. Yeah, it's hard to explain, too. You get down to the last 5 minutes, the team starts to feel it slipping away, and then all of a sudden free throws stretch it out to double figures.
Right.
You see it all the time. So I think tonight could be one of these games. But right now, San Diego State's just a much better basketball team than UNM. And San Diego State could run these guys off the floor, but who knows? It's the Pit.
It depends on shooting.
Right.
I've always said if the Lobos are hitting shots, they can win a lot of games. If they're not hitting shots like the other night,
but
not so much.
And we ran into this last time they played San Diego State, and Paul Weir's harped on this all year. Anytime you run into a team with a good, fast backcourt, they're going to have trouble. Well, San Diego State has that, and they're lean, athletic down low, and they're fast in the backcourt. It could get ugly tonight, but who knows?
Let's take a look now at high school hoops. Boys 3A District 5 standings, as you've got Sandia Prep at the top.
Yeah.
Let's go quickly now to 4A District 5, and in 4A District 5, Las Lunas, Valencia, Grand, St. Pius. You got Las Lunas at the top along with Valencia 3-0. Those teams are going head-to-head, so that should be a good one. And then you've got 4A District 6. And 4A District 6, you've got Valley, Hope Christian, Del Norte, Highland, Bernalillo, and Albuquerque Academy in that district. But you got Valley and Hope. Valley with a big win over Hope last week.
That's a great district. I mean, look at it, just the crowds for that district alone. But the tradition, Bernalillo with Darnell's been there forever. It's weird seeing Academy at 0-4 at the bottom of a district, but it's so competitive. Valley's good. Hope is what it is. I think everyone has their eyes on this district on 4A really because Hope, they just ran roughshod in 3A the last decade, and now they're up with the bigger kids. Let's see how they do come state because, you know, history shows Hope is unbeatable this time.
Okay, one thing that I do have to do, especially if we're going to have you on again, I got to put St. Mike's district in here because I don't have St. Mike's district here.
Or Santa Fe High.
Well, I've got Santa Fe Highs because, you know, but I don't have St. Mike's, so we'll have to add that. 5 District 1. So in 5 District 1, you got Rio Rancho. How about that for a surprise?
Yeah.
Rio Rancho, not a surprise that Wally Salada's team is good, but they're all of a sudden what he wants, quietly climbing up.
Yeah, that
17-4 isn't exactly climbing up. They've had an outstanding year.
You look at the top 4 teams in that district could easily go off and win a state championship. I'm partial to Volcano Vista. My kids go to school there, so I can't. I probably should. This is a live show. We should bleep that out. We should say that. I shouldn't be rooting for anybody, but no, Rio Rancho. I like Wally Salada. He and I go way back, and but even at Trisco Heritage, their head coach and I used to play against each other back in high school. And Cleveland is what it is. I've seen Cleveland when they came up to Santa Fe. Just that district alone is its own little death cage match.
Let's go to 5A District 2 and the standings show La Cueva, the surprise team. And they had a big, close victory against El Dorado last week. El Dorado 3-1. Those two teams pretty much the class of the district.
Yeah, and they should be. I mean, you look at just from a strictly traditional standpoint, they should be. But El Dorado, I think El Dorado teams, they're one of those teams that gets hot this time of year, and they could be certainly some team you don't want to.
And they get hot shooting-wise. When they got their guys, they played without Quintana last week, and if they get shooting, they're deadly. Let's go quickly to District 3, and this one's a good one. William Benjamin, 21-0. By the way, he's going to be a special guest on the Team High School show on Saturday. So anytime William Benjamin's on the air, it's a tune-in. And he requested the interview. So James and Yotis and I are laughing at that because he's calling his own shots. And I'll guarantee you, he is either watching it live right now. He watches this show also because he watches Ed and I.
There you go.
He told me to give his Aggies some love a couple of weeks ago because, in his words, it would tick Ed off. So, you know, William's one of those coaches who is very, you know, he's very tuned in to what we do.
Well, how about that 21-0 record? You can go two ways with that. You can either say a loss takes some of the pressure off, or it's an ego trip. You want to keep this thing going, but you see.
Well, the
teams
way
get
they
tight.
blew Trisco Heritage out, and they did it with defense, and Trisco's no joke.
Yeah.
This is impressive. Quickly going to District 4 now before we go to break. You got Clovis 2-0, Hobbs 1-1, Roswell 1-1, and District 5. This is a very interesting district. How about 2-2 for everybody?
Yeah. Just flip a
Have
coin
you
in
ever
that
seen this
district.
before?
No,
James and I were talking about this, and we've never seen this before.
Yeah, Manzano is huge. They've got such a big lineup. And then Santa Fe High, of course, they lost their two biggest kids, including White, who's out for the year. I know Santa Fe High, they had a shot at maybe doing something in 5A, but that district, that district is completely a mess.
See, some people might say, wow, that's competitive. You say it's a mess, and I tend to agree with you. So.
Yeah, they're fun to watch, though.
Absolutely. We'll take a break. We got one more segment on the Sports Desk.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
The service department at Gala Chevrolet is clean, modern, and ready for you. Our master technicians service every make and model, including certified service on any GM vehicle. Service done right the first time, every time, right here at the all-new Gala Chevrolet.
Dreamstyle Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dreamstyle Remodeling is family-owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dreamstyle Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true.
Welcome back here to the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Galletti along with Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Josh Luna taking the reins here as our director today. I'd like to thank Jim Villanucci from ESPN Radio 1017, the team from the Jim Villanucci Show, joining us here in segment number 1. Won't be the last time we have him on, but we are talking high school sports. We are talking polls right now. We're going to go to the girls' side first, and we will take a look at 2A. You got Texaco, Pecos, Penasco, Mescalero, and Clayton.
Yeah, Texaco and Pecos are in that same district. They actually play one another a couple times. And then you look at 2A, it's all about travel. How can you survive the travel? Because a lot of these schools are on the outer edge of the state. So you're talking about hours in a bus to and from. And Pecos is in the middle of one of those things right now. They just played Clayton over the weekend. So yeah, but look, Texaco is a juggernaut at that level. If you're going to win at that level, you got to go through Texaco.
Let's go to 3A, and the 3A girls poll looks as follows. Robertson still at number 1 in the coaches poll. Tucumcari, Santa Fe Indian, Hatch Valley, and Tularosa.
Yeah, Robertson was undefeated until losing to Tucumcari last weekend, but in some ways, just what we're talking about with Las Cruces, a loss is probably a good thing for them. It quits them talking about going undefeated.
Right, it takes the pressure off of being undefeated. Let's look at girls 4A now, and you have Las Lunas still at number 1, followed by Kirtland Central, Gallup, Highland, and Pewaukee.
Yeah, that's the NMA's favorite bracket because you have Kirtland Central, who brings the people, along with Gallup is good, and Pewaukee's going to bring a lot of fans. As long as those teams keep playing well, the NMA's happy.
Right, absolutely. Now we go to district. Let's go to 5A, I should say, 5A girls. Hobbs still number 1, West Mesa, 1 loss, number 2.
Yeah.
Piedra Vista, very impressive, but they fell this week from number 2 to number 3.
West Mesa is one of those teams, they don't have a lot of tradition there, but they've got such a good, deep roster, and I think they had a kid transferred from Las Vegas, Robertson, in the offseason. Varela, she's the point guard. They're a fun team to watch, and it'd be nice to see West Mesa do something this time of year.
How about La Cueva moving up to number 4?
Yeah, La Cueva is always going to be tough, and those kids are always so well coached. It's just a good program, and who knows? That's 5A is a total crapshoot at this point.
And let's look at boys now, starting with 2A, and no change on the 2A side. Pecos still number 1, Texaco, Newcomb, Santa Rosa, Magdalena.
Yeah, it's amazing what Pecos has done with all the off-season stuff. One of their coaches got arrested for misconduct off the court, but they won 2 in a row going for the three-peat this year, and obviously I think they're the best team down there.
Yeah, and they got a good coach in Ira Hartz Jr.
Good guy, really nice
Good guy, yes.
Yeah. Huge. You don't want to run into him in an alley. He's a big, imposing figure. He's like Hagrid from Harry Potter.
Yes, he is. Let's go to boys 3A now. In 3A, there's St. Mike's, number 1, followed by Sandia Prep, Hot Springs, Cuba, and Tularosa.
Yeah, Hot Springs has the best overall record. They won 17 games, so you have to pay attention to them. But St. Mike's has played a murderer's row of non-district stuff. They have 7 losses, but it's conceivable St. Mike's could run the table. But look, Sandia Prep, so well coached. Coach, this is how old I am. I covered him when he was playing in high school, and now he's a head coach at Sandia Prep.
So Santa Fe Indian, number 6. I bring them up because they've got the nicest arena
by far
in the state.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
It's not a gym; it's an arena.
Yeah, it is. In the light, they have non-direct lighting there, so it's very soothing. They have a tracker on the inside.
Got to go there a year ago with Joe O'Neill for the station, and I'd never been there before. I had no idea. I walk in, it's like, this isn't a gym.
It's better than a lot of the college facilities you're going to see.
It really is. So it's unbelievable what they have a chance, and they put a lot of money into it. Make no mistake. So, and they did it right. Yeah. Let's go to boys 4A, and in 4A you got Las Lunas still at number 1. Gallup up at number 2, Hope Christian down to number 3, Silver and Valencia.
Yeah, how about Las Lunas with boys and girls teams playing as well as they have?
Mm-hmm. Well, they have a veteran boys team. So, I mean, Zanen Zeller, Marty Zeller's son, leading the way. So this is a team that, in my opinion, is built to win it this year. After this year, they lose a lot of pieces. But this year, this is their experience team.
Yeah, and they could potentially run into Silver. I've seen Silver. Silver's a very good team.
That's what I hear.
But Hope is going to be, if it stays like that, Hope will be on the other side of the bracket, and you always have to keep an eye on Hope. No matter what their record is, no matter what their seeding is, they're still Hope Christian until somebody knocks them off.
And finally, 5A, and there is Las Cruces, number 1, Volcano up to number 2, Cleveland down to number 3. They're 0-2 in district, by the way. Rio Rancho 4th, Atrisco 5th, El Dorado 6th.
Yeah, that district, Volcano, Cleveland, and Rio Rancho, and Atrisco, that's crazy that you could have all 4 teams conceivably make the Final Four if it works out that way. But Las Cruces, good story. Everyone loves an undefeated team, and everyone loves a team that has a coach with attitude. So there you go.
Attitude, charisma, flamboyant, you name it. That's William Benjamin in a nutshell. Let's take a quick look at the standings for 5A. We'll run through these quickly as we're up against the time here, but we'll look at District 1 and 5A right now on the girls' side since we didn't get to the girls. And you've got Volcano 3-0. You got Cleveland and Rio Rancho 2-1.
Yeah, Volcano's just a machine. They've done such a good job, really, since the school opened with girls basketball. Such a good tradition. And, of course, the feeder schools coming in, there's an endless supply of talent coming through there.
Let's motor along to District 2 now. And in District 2, you got Farmington and Piedra Vista at the top.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that district other than Farmington must be pretty good.
Well, West Mesa down at 2-1, and Piedra Vista beating West Mesa. That was a upset, if you will, but when you look at the overall records, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of like to see West Mesa do something, but look, that district will play itself out in the coming weeks.
5A District 3, and you've got Mayfield 7-0. How about them coming out of nowhere?
Yeah, they're just running away with it. Of course, I come from a time where Mayfield was good every single year. They were the powerhouse at that level. So.
Well, we will have to end it there, it looks like, as the show is coming to a close. Want to thank you, Will. And
it's weird because like this light right above us, there's blood spatter. I swear there's blood spatter on this light. If there was a way to pan up there.
Special effects, Will.
Yeah,
special effects.
It's like you guys have been filming snuff films in here or something. I don't know. There's something crazy. I think I need to collect my check and get out of here.
Well, want to thank Josh Luna for being our director here today. Want to thank Jim Villanucci for joining us here in the first segment. And, of course, Will Weber from the Santa Fe New Mexican. Ed Nunez will be back next week. And we'll talk to you next week on the Sports Desk.